Hi guys, welcome to part 2 of the lion tutorial. I am about to finally start part 2. I just spent a tedious 3 hours, yes, 3 whole hours just etching the texture into the face. I officially feel like I hate etching. So this is going to happen to you probably because you're like, this is such a boring part of the drawing. You actually don't have to do this if you don't want to. Although I would recommend it because it makes it look so realistic. But it is a very long, tedious process to get in all those etching marks on your paper. The lion's face, most of the lion's face is what I spent etching. So I didn't really even get to the top of the eye. It's more the eye. So the etching, the areas that I managed to etch were over here, the nose, the mouth, and just around here. That's what took me 3 hours to etch. The reason it took that long is because it's such short little fine pieces of fur. There are no long strokes. So you have to be very, very careful with this. You have to make sure that you use short little strokes, not long strokes, because it's not long hair. If you get bored or you get annoyed with etching, take a step back and have 5 minutes out because you don't want to wreck this part of the drawing because it's going to make everything, it's going to make such a difference later when we add color. So make sure you use tiny little hairs, make sure you are looking at your reference photo constantly and you're putting everything in the right direction. There's pieces of fur that are going in all sorts of directions. The area under the eye here is sort of going in a looping downwards direction from the left to the right, and then the areas on the nose, half of it's going to the left, half of it's going down to the right. The areas over here where the whiskers are, a lot of that is actually not, it's almost like dotted, so you're going to do like almost tiny little scribbles as a texture over there. The weather is so bad, it's storming today, so you probably pick up that noise in the background, and I hope it's not going to interfere too much with the audio, but that is the noise outside. It's actually really nice having so much rain for a change, but today is so windy and wet, there's nothing I can do. Okay, and then areas on the chin, these have longer pieces of fur, so you can make them a bit longer. The areas over the sort of gap of the mouth here are a little bit longer as well. So just pay attention to your reference and make sure that you're doing everything, putting everything in the right direction. So I'm so happy now I can finally do color because I am sick of etching. But like I said, even though it's going to be a tedious process, I really recommend that you do it because it just gives such a beautiful effect once you add the color. And it's going to make it look super realistic. So next up, I am going to start adding, I don't know, I'm going to add sort of darker colors to indicate the darker areas of the face, I guess, and then maybe put sort of like base colors down with the PanPastels. I don't know, I'll see where I'm going to go with this. And I'm hoping to get the snout area done at least, or at least get some base colors done on that. So we'll see how much I can get done in an hour because I'm only going to make each part an hour long. And that's a nice break between each sort of tutorial or process as you go. So yes, I spent 3 hours today just etching, and now I'm going to spend an hour drawing, and then I'm going to edit all of that for you guys as part 2 of this video. Okay? Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to do is the nose, because that's probably going to be the easiest point just to get out of the way. So I'm going to use my Van Dyke Brown number 176, and that's my Polychromos. And I'm going to start adding color in the nose here. is so stormy. I really hope everyone's going to be safe on the roads today. Now we've got warm grey number 275. Now I'm going to use my black number 199. See, I just don't feel like the black is dark enough. That's why I like the Sharpie. So I'm going to come in with my black Sharpie. And I don't know if it's going to go over the pencil, but we'll try. No. No. So if we're going to use a black Sharpie, we need to use it first because it doesn't go over the oil pencil, which makes sense really. Now I'm using my Caput Mortuum Violet number 263. Walnut Brown number 177. Okay, now I want to try and use my colorless blender to see if I can blend that together. So I'm just taking a bit of the colorless blender, dipping my brush in there, and then I'm going to try and blend these colors together. I think I need a firmer brush. This one's just too soft. No, I'm going to use a sponge, I think. So I have a sort of little makeup sponge. You can put a little bit in there, on there, and try and blend this together. Okay. That works quite nicely. So definitely a sponge is better than a brush. Now I want to come back in with my black Sharpie. I don't know if this is going to work. But maybe. No. Right, I'm coming in with my black 199. I'm very quickly starting to know why I love wax and solvent so much. This is really not so easy. Not using solvent, especially since I use it all the time, is being a bit challenging right now. I'm using my Rawumber number 180. Add some warmth in the color of the nose. Now I'm using a white paint marker 0.7. I got this on eBay for like 50 cents, I think. The brand is SIPA, S-I-P-A, and it's an oil-based paint marker. Works amazing, so it's something to look at. I'm going to create those like white highlights in the nose, just to give that indication of it being moist. Sometimes you have to push the nib in a little bit to get the paint coming out. Okay, so because I want to get some areas really, really black, I'm going to experiment with this. So it is called, it's called Touch Up Texture, and it's by brushandpencil.com, which you can get it from the US. So it looks like a little bottle like this, and you're just going to paint the nose. I haven't used this before, so this is another experimentation I don't know how much I'm supposed to use. I hope I'm not using too much. So technically the idea is that this is going to put the texture back on your paper, and you should be able to sort of start fresh with whatever colors you're going to put over the top. So I'm going to leave that to dry, and then I'm going to try and add the really black pieces with the Sharpie and hope for the best. Okay, now that I know that I have to use black Sharpie first if I really want the black areas, I'm going to do the spots and the whiskers over here. Pay close attention to your reference, you don't want to overdo these. Okay, so that seems to be dry. I can definitely see the texture on there. So let's see if we can... Oh, wow. That is so cool. Okay, I like that. So that works so well. Touch up texture. Okay, so now I'm using my warm grey number 274, and I just want to add some grey. Now I'm using Whiskers number 179. Okay, I can feel the pencil, it's not totally dry yet. I didn't really give that much time anyways, which makes sense. That gives it a really nice tinge of colour. Okay, I'm going to leave it a bit longer before I add any more. Actually, I'm going to experiment again and hope for the best. So I'm going to use my Burnt Sienna Tint 740.8 PanPastel. I'm going to add some light sort of base. Hopefully that's what it comes out as. Okay, now I'm going to use the 280 orange shade in the Pan Pastel. And I'm going to do the same as what I did now, but for the darker areas. Not just the darker areas, but the areas that are more orange. So try not to overdo this one because this is quite an orange color. So when you get to doing this with Pan Pastel, you may feel like you want to cry a little bit because of all that texturing that you just did, and the Pan Pastel sort of covers it. That is okay. The best thing about Pan Pastels is that you can erase. So we can use the Tombow eraser as a sort of texturing technique on top of the etching. But the etching will definitely help when we use the pencil. Pan pastels are just so nice because they just have such a softness to them. They flow easily into one another, and they're easy to correct. So you can erase because of the softness of it, which is so great. Okay, now we need an even darker color. I think we're going to try the Orange Extra Dark 280.1. And I'm going to use a this small pointy Prisma PanPastels spongy thing. So this is for the dark, nice dark shadows. It's so nice having a medium like this. You sort of don't have that fear of making a mistake because you know that it'll be easily rectified. And because they all just blend so well together because of how soft this sort of powder is, it's very fun. So you do all the base with this and then you do the detailing with the pencils. It's wonderful. And I haven't etched this area, so I need to be careful not to go there. going to use this flat brush, number 12. It's called a long shader brush. And I'm going to create this dark little shadow just above the cub's nose. I'm also going to use it to sort of indicate the shadows of the whiskers. My poor dogs. I've got one of them staring me down because she wants to go outside, but the weather is so bad. I can't take them anywhere. They make me feel so guilty. That looks awesome. Add a little bit on the side of the nose here as well. Okay, there's something I want to do so badly and I just can't wait any longer. So I'm going to use my Ivory number 103. It's my Faber-Castell Polychromos. And I want to create these nice soft whiskers. It's not quite light enough, so I think this is the only Prismacolor pencil I'm going to use. I'm going to use a white Prismacolor to do those little edges. Okay, so I have my white Prismacolor PC938, and I'm going to use this for these nice little white whiskers. So the black background I have is, it's an airbrush background. So if you don't have a background and you want to leave it white, you can do that. Just use the ivory or like a beigey sort of color for this so that it comes up against the white of the paper. Okay, so there's still this very, very distinct line here. So the way I'm going to change that is I'm going to use my white paint marker, and I'm just going to make these edges a little less rounded. Just trying to squeeze some more of the paint out. There we go. So you got to be patient with these paint markers as well, because you sort of have to put pressure to get the paint out. Oh no! Whew! Lucky. That could have been so much worse. This is totally not working the way I want it to. Just so you know. Well, that's certainly another way to do it. Let it drip that ink out and then spread it. That is actually working beautifully. And then if I can't get the pan pastel to go over it, then I can use touch up texture. Wait for that to dry and then put it over. It's so cool. Yep, you guys think I'm crazy. That's the beauty about art though. It's art, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now nothing wants to come out. I totally love it. I love the way that just turned out. You may not believe me, but I do. Okay. Now I'm using my white Prisma again, and I'm just going to do these whiskers. Oh, I hate that about Prismacolor. You really can't use pressure. Right, now I want to add some color in the whiskers because the whiskers are obviously not completely white. So I'm going to use my Rawumber number 180. Just add some color in some of them. Love it. Now I want to add a tinge of green. Yep, so I'm going to use my olive green yellowish number 173 and add some darker greens in here as well. Because I have a bit of green in the background, even though it looks completely black, there is some green in there. So it sort of needs to be a reflection of the background. I like that. Okay. We've pretty much reached an hour already, so this is going to be part 2 of the tutorial. Okay, so we have reached part 2 of the lion tutorial, and this was very fun. Although it was the last hour that was fun, because this whole hour in the tutorial was me adding color. The whole 3 hours before that was etching the texture into the drawing. So, real tedious part, real boring part, real pain in the bum part was doing all the texturing with the etching tool. Then I added my PanPastels as a sort of base layer to add value so that I can add details later. So we haven't gotten to the detailing part in this tutorial, but everything that we've added now is pretty much the base colors. So if you reach this stage and you're using PanPastels, you're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, why did I spend so many hours etching? If I put PanPastel down, it covers my texturing. It goes into my texturing. You can't see it stand out like it does when you add colored pencil, because a colored pencil doesn't go into the etching, but the PanPastel is, because it's a powder. So why did I waste my time doing all that etching? You will see later. So the beauty about PanPastels is it's like chalk. You can erase it. You can actually add more texture to it with a Tombow eraser. So that's what we'll be doing as we add our layers. Before we get to adding details with the pencil, we will actually erase some of it using a little Tombow eraser, and that's going to add more texture. But when we add our colored pencils, that is not going to go into the texture of your paper. When we add the details with colored pencils, you are going to see that texture pop right out. So don't feel like you wasted your time doing the etching. But like I said as well, you don't have to do the etching part. You can do texturing with your colored pencils. You don't necessarily have to physically do texturing in the paper if you don't want to. So still use the same techniques. Even if you don't etch, you're still going to do the same sort of thing, and use your colored pencil to create variety in texturing in your drawing. But it does add a lot more when you do texture the paper. So that's what we've gone through today. Another thing we've gone through, sort of a trial and error thing, is doing the whiskers on the chin with the paint marker. So I've learnt with the paint marker, when you're doing hairs and things like that, it's not necessarily the easiest tool to use. Paint markers have a tendency to leak paint all of a sudden, and then you have this big blob of white. So I sort of got to the point where I used that to my advantage by going sort of close to the edge of the chin, and then using streaks in both directions to create the soft hairs on the chin. You'll know exactly what I mean when you look at that part of the tutorial. And that worked out pretty good. So I still look like I've got nice soft hairs on the chin, and I look like I have a lot of light reflecting on it. So it looks beautiful. And it worked out okay. But the intention wasn't to make blobs of white paint, but because it happened, I sort of used it to my advantage. And it's nice to know that that's what that pen does. I haven't used that pen much, so that I'm prepared in the future. I'm not going to use it on delicate areas if I don't want to risk a blob of paint getting onto it. So that's just something to consider. I did use my white Prismacolor pencil there, but it wasn't quite enough. Plus it doesn't keep a sharp enough point, so that's why I used the paint marker. The only time that I used the Prismacolor for the rest of the drawing was the whiskers, the big whiskers. I like to use that as a sort of base, and then on top I'll add additional colors. I'm not quite done with the whiskers yet. There's still a few things I can do all around the face, but this is a nice start to the base coloring. So doing foundation or underlayering is mainly what this tutorial is about, and I hope you guys can see how amazing it looks, because it sort of gives it a 3-dimension and a bit of form. And then once you have that down, it makes the detailing with pencils that much more fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of the tutorial, and then the next tutorial will be adding detailing to the face and finishing the underlayering and adding more detail to that part of the face. I'm going to do that before I even think of texturing the rest of the face, because I'm sort of over that. So I'm going to give myself a break. In the next tutorial, I'm literally just going to go over the areas that I have textured, and then once that's complete, I will texture more and go on to the next section of the face and the ears. And the mane, I just had that much trouble etching with the face. Be prepared to have super power patience when you're going to do the mane. I will have to prepare myself for that, because the mane is massive. It's 4 or 5 times the size of the face, and every inch of it's going to need texturing. So that's going to be fun. Lucky for you, you don't have to watch me doing that on camera, because you would be bored to death. What I do while I'm etching and I'm that bored is I listen to songs and sing along like an idiot just to make the time go past faster and make me feel happier. That's how tedious the whole process is. And you think I'm crazy, yeah, you think I'm crazy, but that's not fair. And that's not fair. Yeah, you don't want to see that again. Okay, I thank you guys so much for watching, and please post your progress pictures because I will be dying to see you guys attempt this, and I really, really, really hope that you do it as big as this as well. Remember, you don't have to have a black background like I do. You can just have a white background. That will be fine. So it's up to you what you decide to do with the background. So I will see you guys in the next tutorial.